Hey, hi, hello, everyone. Hello, hi, hello. My name is Onepeg. This video is about the podcast that happened late last night, in my time zone late last night, between myself and Terry Sangwa Park, the CEO of ironmace Games, to discuss the upcoming mid-November patch, which, for those of you that want to know, is going to be slated for November 22nd. Wednesday, November 22nd, in the GMT time zone, most likely in the evening, when it's the 23rd in Korea, when they get to the office in the morning. That's when you can expect to see the patch, being deployed. That is at least the target. Obviously, it could get delayed, but we will see. Now, just for ground rules, this conversation did not have anything to do with bugs or bug fixes. It had nothing to do with mechanics or class balance changes. All of those discussions are in SDF's wheelhouse, not Terry's wheelhouse. Terry was there to talk about content for the upcoming patch, okay? Now, there could be balance adjustments that come out with the patch. I don't really know. We will have to see. Also, no discussion in regard to anything legally speaking or the game coming back to Steam. Now, I can tell you that the reason why it hasn't shown back up on Steam yet is because the Korean court has not made a preliminary decision insofar as to whether or not they're going to tell Nexon to stop pursuing the DMCA claim, or if they're going to have to tell ironmace to shut down. Either one of those two potential outcomes is possible. However, this was supposed to have been decided back in August. It hasn't been decided yet because Nexon has made repeated filings to the court prior to this decision being made, trying to show further evidence, even though this whole process was supposed to have had its doors closed to any new evidence, but they're still going. The judges, what I've been told is the judges in Korea are human, and therefore feel as though they need to give credence to any new evidence that were to show up, so they're going to listen to what Nexon has to say, and then, of course, ironmace has to respond, which further delays this process. So we don't have any type of preliminary decision or whatever from the Korean court as of yet. Because it's being delayed, though, it does look as though it's kind of swaying in ironmace's favor, given that if Nexon really had the proof that they did, they'd be able to just kind of close the door on this and be like, there you go, here's everything, just nail them to the wall, and they haven't been able to do that yet. So I don't think Dark and Dark is going anywhere for any time in the near future, which is good for us and good for them relisting on Steam at some point in the eventual future. It's just a matter of, I guess, getting the paper trail to stop being a paper trail. Anyway, this patch was about a lot of content stuff. That's what it's going to be about. Anyway, unfortunately, it seems as though it's a little lackluster for a lot of the people in the player base and the audience, worried that there isn't going to be enough content to be able to really sink their teeth into. Now, Terry agrees with this. However, they want something that's going to be ready, and they don't want it to be something that's going to be feel as though it's just a carbon copy of something we've already done. So with that, there are a couple of things that will not be in this patch. The first is going to be the new map. That is looking like maybe another month, maybe another 6 weeks from now. And the reason why is because of the AI. There isn't enough AI on the map, and it felt as though it flowed just like how Crypts did and didn't feel like a new environment or new encounter. I can tell you that the map is going to be an ice biome. There's going to be frost and ice, frozen types of creatures, and eventually the boss in that area will be an ice dragon. There will also be like frost giants, ice giants. Really cool ideas and very interesting, but unfortunately they didn't have any new media to share with us. But the AI, the monsters involved in this, are all being created by one person. Every monster type and their movements, their behavior, the attack patterns that they have are all being created by a single person in the office. They only have one modeler that does this type of work. They're looking for more, but they've run out of space, and they're trying to find new people to hire to be able to assist them in building this stuff up. But for the time being, they only have one guy, and that's the delay, more or less. So unfortunately, we won't have a new map. We also will not see the Druid at the point in time that the patch deploys. Again, they wanted to have the Druid be released, but they don't have the Druid to be available as of yet, mainly because the shape-shifting mechanic is starting to cause issues with where the camera should be placed for the eyes of the Druid as they shapeshift into like a bear. But for those of you wondering, there will be a bear shapeshifted form. You will turn into an actual bear along with whatever other forms that you can shapeshift into. But once they work through that and are able to get that hammered out, we should see some initial introduction of the Druid, hopefully within the next month or so by Christmas. The plan is to try to get the ice map and the Druid available to us to play by the end of December as like a Christmas release. One other thing that will not be included in this patch, but has been confirmed to be included in a later patch, possibly even by January, is an auction house. Really not an auction house, more of a flea market where you're just going to have buy it now listings. You know, you list a sword for 100 gold or whatever it's going to be. That's what they're looking to add. So the cries of the public have been heard. Terry has agreed, SDF has agreed, they are going to build us some type of flea market system that will allow us to passively list items for sale and obviously allow us to purchase items that we need without having the additional downtime of sitting in and watching a Diablo 2-esque trade chat scroll by. However, Diablo 2 trade chat and that trade system will still be included in the game to be available for friends and whatnot to be able to trade items between each other. So never fear, don't fret, that stuff will still be available for all of us to be able to trade amongst each other. Okay, insofar as what is included in the patch, here's what I've got. First is a ranked system for High Roller. There's a brand new high roller ranking system that's going to be deployed. The idea behind this is that people will be able to earn themselves titles. And through those titles, there will be certain levels of awards, rewards, treasure, loot, whatever, that will be awarded to that person at the end of the season. So this is like a full seasonal journey throughout a 3-month period of time, whereby through high roller, you're able to earn higher and higher rank marks that will denote you as earning cooler and cooler stuff. At the end of the season, when the new season switches, so again, every 3 months being what it is, this would be December, January, February, say, of 2024, when the season ends, all of those rewards would be then given to you at the beginning of the following season. So you'd be able to start kind of with a jump start into the following seasons thereafter. Now, those adventure titles and whatnot kind of look like this. However, the information kind of at the bottom, the titles, the awards themselves, all of that stuff is complete placeholder information. So please don't assume that that is what you're going to get. They actually don't know just yet how they're going to set those awards up and what those rewards are going to be, but that will be more or less the form of what it's going to be. So this is what it will roughly resemble. Then there's going to be an inclusion of a high roller results screen. So at the end of each high roller round, you will see if there was any progression, what you progressed on, what kind of XP you generated, the kind of kills that you got. Again, try not to pay attention to the UI here because there's like skills that are being shown and like the red BR circle and whatnot. All of that stuff is just passive artwork that's being used as a placeholder for the person that's doing the mock-up. So again, pay more attention to the stat screen and that inclusion of it as opposed to the stuff around it. And then lastly, we have the player stats mock-up. So this is going to be a running record of all of the stuff that you have achieved, everything that you've done, kills that you've obtained, XP that you've gained, money that you've earned, etc., for your player stats in your account. So that way you have an idea of not only all time, but also it will be broken down into each season so you can see what you've accomplished as the seasons progressed. And again, this ranked system will be included in the next patch next week. Also, we have the inclusion of a quest system. Now, that quest system looks somewhat like this. What we've been told is that there will be 30 approximate quests to be able to partake in from various vendors, and those quests will allow you to unlock larger or higher tiers of reputation with the vendors that will allow you to buy bigger and better items as you progress through those quest chains. The idea being that as you move up in rep, you will have a wider assortment of and higher quality items to be able to choose from on a more regular basis so that you can better flesh out your character with vendored items as opposed to having to go to the market every time, when you die. They refer to this trader level or trader XP as affinity, and this is also introducing a new mechanic that we haven't seen in this game at least, but we have seen in places like Tarkov, which is a found in raid mechanic. So there are items that will obviously be tradable. You can retrade items throughout the auction house when it comes in and obviously through trade chat, but you have to loot the items yourself and hand them in as opposed to just obtaining them from a buddy. From here, there is also a major change in statistics. So the stats of our character sheet are changing dramatically, and this will absolutely shift how the game gets played. And it also comes with the introduction of some new gearing and some new stat allocations on that gear. So there will be new armor included. There won't be any new weapons or animated weapons as of yet, but they are being worked on. But there is new gear, and there will be new crafted recipe items that will also be included in the game when this comes through. But there are two major shifts in stats, basically around strength and agility. Strength is now being split into two stats, strength and vigor. Vigor being like the traditional constitution stat that has to do with hit points. So the stat weight right now is 100% on strength would give you both hit points and attack damage. Now what they've done is they've weighted strength to be 75% related to attack damage and 25% to boosting your HP pool. The vigor stat is flipped. 75% will be related to your HP pool and 25% will be going toward damage. So this will make tankier classes, characters, etc. have to decide in their, I guess, meta builds, their min-maxing, whether or not they want to be more absorbative or whether or not they want to be more damage dealing, and obviously comes with a lot more theory craft once we were able to actually see the stats and how we could best allocate those stats to build out a character in the quote-unquote perfect way. They are also doing the same thing with agility and dexterity. Agility now is going to be weighted more toward run speed and that ability to be able to move more quickly, and then dexterity is going to be more around interaction speed and attack speed, what they refer to as action speed. So the swinging of a sword and how fast that happens is not going to be tied to how fast you run anymore. You will have to choose between the two. This, I believe, slows the dungeon down a bit, either weighting it toward people that can move quickly or weighting it toward people that are going to be able to attack more quickly. Now, the dexterity stat is also going to be related to resourcefulness. Resourcefulness tying into this dexterity stat also will boost action speed a bit. So dexterity will also feed into things like mining speed and whatnot, but not nearly as much as resourcefulness will. And they're trying to better flesh out the resourcefulness stat so that it becomes more useful as time progresses. Between now and some point in the future, they are going to rework the purpose of resourcefulness to something that is more useful and more desirable by the general player base. As another content addition, we are also going to see the inclusion of a new boss. This will be on the Solos map and initially will not be included in High Roller Goblin Caves, but it is a Goblin Caves boss. We've already heard teases about the Cyclops. The Cyclops is going to be a boss that will spawn instead of the Troll. It will be one or the other, but for now, he will only spawn on the normal map. I'm going to assume that he will have his own loot pool items, although that didn't get discussed. He'll probably have his own loot pool items, and he does look something like this, but again, I would ask that you don't, I guess, judge a book by its cover. So that's what we have to work with. There's obviously some polish that needs to be put on him. He doesn't have like the right shading. There's no shadows like under his feet or anything. He's a little bit disjointed from the map, but it was literally just a screen record of the one guy in the office, that amazing one guy that needs a pay raise, that has been making all of the character animations and all the modeling and everything. I mean, yeah, they're store-bought assets, but he's still got to dial everything into what they're expecting to get out of the game, correct? So that one guy is still working on finalizing the Cyclops. Obviously, they have another week to finish it, and that will be out for the next patch. Okay, now for the things that people are looking toward on, like, I guess, the miscellaneous side of things. Quivers are not going to be included in this patch, and neither will backpacks, although it is something that they are looking to include very soon. The problem is that the system that has something to do with backpacks and quivers and their access is something that's being tied to resourcefulness, or was always tied to resourcefulness, and they're trying to hammer out details along with that to make it feel like it's something that makes sense. Shared stashes are possible, but not something that they're really hammering out as of yet. They're looking into it for the future, and much like the auction house, please make your voice be heard. Keep hammering in the Discord or whatever and ask for it, and perhaps it will be something that will sway SDF into finally providing it to everyone. The test server, on the larger side of the two options that you had to be able to purchase for game packages, you had a $35 package and a $50 one. The $50 one came with this little blurb about a test server. That test server is like a player test realm for experimental builds of the game, like a hardcore mode or a solo self-found mode, things like that we have a curiosity about as a player base and want to try, but they don't necessarily want to just force on everyone in live. That's what that test server will be for, and they're looking to spin that up in the near future. A friends list is being worked on and is likely going to be included in the next patch. It's possible it could get delayed by another week or two, but a friends list will be here very, very soon, most likely next Wednesday. A big ripple that went through the community over this is the inclusion of a new MMR or matchmaking system. MMR meaning like matchmaking rank points. The idea being the better that you are at a video game, you get placed with people that are around your skill level, much like chess and its ELO system. There is a lot of scrutiny that goes into this though, because people dislike the fact that they end up being stuffed into lobbies of people that are of like skill level in a lot of cases if they want to play the game more casually, because there could be times where they just want to make like a casual run or try to run loot or have those random encounters with people that end up being fun and interesting, and that starts to get lost with people that try to play more skillfully. In the history, throughout history, games like this that have implemented hardcore MMR systems have tended to not be successful unless they are solely derived and centralized around PvP, like CSGO, or a game like Dota or League of Legends. Those types of games that are centralized, Valorant, that are centralized around PvP, even passively in casual lobbies, still end up placing people of like skill around people of like skill solely for the fact that no one wants to get stomped. But that's what they're trying to avoid, is people in grays running into the lobby and then getting trucked by people that are running around in legendary items. Now, I can tell you that this has already been implemented at some degree. One of the revelations of the podcast was that for the last few days, this MMR system has already kind of been running in the shadows thanks to a cryptic message that SDF left in the Discord. That matchmaking system has already sort of kind of been going on. So if you've been feeling like every once in a while you're ending up in a lobby where there's a bunch of Timmies running around that have no idea what they're doing and you're kind of scratching your head as to why, that's why. It's because you got steamrolled for a raid or 2 or 3 in a row, and it started putting you in lobbies with people that weren't necessarily as good as you are, let's say. Conversely, if you've run a bunch of matches in a row and you've done really well, you could suddenly find yourself ending up against guys in purples. It's kind of just what's been happening. However, this isn't the final iteration of that MMR system. There is a very, very large revamp of this system that's being included, and according to Terry, he believes that we might be pleasantly surprised by it after the patch goes live. I have my reservations. I'm not going to lie. I do, because I worry about MMR systems like this. But if there was ever a time to be able to try something, it would be now. We are in an alpha test. Might as well try it. Somewhere around January-ish, they are going to include your chambers. So think of it as you're an adventurer in a tavern. You will have the ability to get your own room that you can then customize. Eventually, at some point, there's going to be the inclusion of things like trophies. You'll be able to hang trophies on your wall if you get large boss kills and whatnot. And they are looking into the idea of eventually having some form of crafting system, passive crafting and whatnot, that you'd be able to accomplish as a casual player to be able to feel like you've made some amount of progression, even though you're getting, I guess, smacked in the dungeon. Last but not least, in regard to the fixed portals, and I guess I should speak to this as well, on the new map that they are toying with the idea of not having a BR circle at all, which would be very interesting to try and play with, and instead utilize the the idea of having that fixed portal system that we've seen in the last iteration of the game, where you have these fixed locations, these extract locations that open up randomly on the map throughout the map as you're moving through it. They're trying to toy with that idea on the new map once the new map releases, and they're also looking at more tweaks and finalizations to those fixed portals on the Crypts map as time goes on, just to get people an idea of what they're trying to finalize, whether it's too abundant or not abundant enough. They're kind of tweaking that in, and they think that they're kind of honing in on where that's supposed to be. Terry ended the podcast by stating just aloud that he really appreciated the player base's support and everything. It's been overwhelmingly positive for the most part. And I guess I should also speak to this. We did talk very briefly about player numbers. There's a lot of people that have talked about how the player numbers have been dropping off at a rapid pace, and it's nowhere near what the concurrent player counts were, because you can see them in the player list if you go and look at it. Terry actually said that when they were originally pitching this idea for a game to potential investors, they were pitching the idea of having 3,000 concurrent players as a peak. Right now, we're looking at peaks of somewhere around 15 to 18,000, even though the game is where it is right now, and a lot of people have complained about how boring it is and how there's nothing to do, and I agree, but a peak of around 15,000 is still about 5x higher than what they had anticipated they were going to see at this point, and they are really happy with what the concurrent player base is looking like at the moment, considering the lack of stuff there is to do. So in terms of them at ironmace, they're looking at the current player base counts as something positive, and they actually like what they've seen. It's exceeded their expectations. Now, obviously, they want to have higher player retention now that they've seen that the game is relatively popular, and they're working on that. But if you're one of those folks that is looking at this like the game is dying or it's a dead game and whatever, just understand that from their perspective, they're looking at this as a wildly successful enterprise already, and they're just trying to build upon that IP. And Terry went so far as to say that he really appreciated all the support that he got from everybody throughout the course of time that they've had to deal with the legal issues that they've had, and he looks forward to supporting everyone moving forward, and he's really listening to the community. They all are, and they're trying to be as responsive and receptive as they possibly can be. And I, for one, agree. I don't feel as though this is like a money grab situation at all. I feel as though the devs are on top of things. I genuinely feel as though they listen to people. And look, I'm coming from a background of Tarkov, right? Where for a long time, I felt as though the devs really didn't care, And in some regard, I feel like they tend to blatantly overlook egregious issues that we would really love to see remedied. But I do not get that vibe from this dev team. I genuinely feel as though this is a bootstraps operation where they are trying their damnedest to please everyone, which is an impossible task. And they are trying to be as receptive to the player base and as reactive and responsive to the player base's wishes as they possibly can, while still trying to generate something that is within their vision. And I got to respect it. I'm sure there are people that are going to be very critical of the lack of content that is being presented in this patch. And I am also disappointed. I don't want to say that I'm not. I would love them to be able to work faster and get us more stuff to do because of how much we all love this game. But if I may be so bold, I would rather see something that is close to being complete when they give it to us as an offering, and something that we can actually enjoy, as opposed to just slapping some content in front of our faces for us to then critique as being incomplete and not ready to have been presented to us in the first place, if that makes sense. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for coming and checking out the video. If you would be so kind as to sub the channel here, I would love to see that. It really, really does matter. Thank you so much for lending me your eyeballs. As always, I am live on Twitch and on YouTube every single day around 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time most days. And then I'm live until whenever. As soon as this video is live, I will also be live running around in the dungeon with my slappy duck feet and creating more memes. More memes, hopefully, for everyone. And the love has overwhelmingly been just amazing for me as well. So thank you guys very much. If there is something that you believe that I can do better, please let me know. I am very receptive to criticism and feedback. I have no problem with that at all. Just let me know if like my interview style wasn't as good, or if you'd like to see me ask more open-ended questions. However you'd like to see me do that, I'm more than happy to oblige or try to oblige. But yeah, in the meantime, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much again, and yeah, peace.